Hi, my name is Jake, and I am a bookish drummer. So for this Stephen King video, I will be discussing the most overrated Stephen King protagonist, with a big caveat that I do actually enjoy most of these characters. So don't get the wrong impression that I don't like these characters or that I hate these characters. In fact, this was much harder to find and to collect than last week's video, which I'll plug that right here. Last week I did underrated Stephen King protagonists, and that was harder to pin down to only 10 because there's so many. This time I had a really hard time trying to find 10 because I'll admit some of these are stretches. I do enjoy a lot of these characters. Some of them, I think I don't like very much. But but anyway, a lot of these I just think they're overrated, either because I don't like them that much or simply because I think there are better characters in the books that they are in. So they're kind of overshadowed, at least in my opinion, by other characters, even though I think most of the time they are main characters or protagonists. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Now, the only thing I'm trying to figure out right now, right this second, is if I should just rip off the Band-Aid and just start with some heavy hitters or ease myself into it. I think I'm going to ease myself into it. This one, I think this book and this character are getting more traction because of the adaptation that recently came out. And again, I don't hate this character. I don't love him either. But I will say The Long Walk, Ray Garity, I would consider overrated just because, like I mentioned, this book and the movie adaptation are getting a lot of traction. This book is good. It's great at times. The character, I can kind of take him or leave him. I don't love this book because of Ray Garity, but I don't love it despite him either. Like, he's a serviceable character. But I think I like this book just because of the actual plot and the premise. And if you don't know, this book is about basically 100 young men being in a race, essentially. Basically, the last person left walking, the last one left standing, wins a prize of whatever they want to. And everyone else gets shot to death. So, obviously, it's not really a huge spoiler, but, like, you're following in the eyes of Ray Garity. So, you know he's going to make it pretty far. And for that, like, there's not really a lot of suspense of, like, who's going to be left towards the end. But I think what makes this book interesting is the conversations he has with other characters and trying to get into their psyche. Not necessarily him, like the character of Ray Garity in and of himself, but the conversations he has with other people. So I think it's the other characters that really make this work well. The same thing with the movie. Like, in the movie, great character, serviceable character, but I think it was the other actors around that character, those other characters, that make him a little better. And hopefully that makes sense. I don't really think he's in the upper echelon of Stephen King protagonists, but lately he's been talked about a lot, and this book has been talked about a lot. So I think in that sense, he's a bit overrated. This next one, I don't think, a lot of people in this corner of BookTube don't like this character, so it might be a bit too much to say that she is overrated, but I know she's a fan favorite for a lot of King fans, and Stephen King himself loves this character so much that he will not stop writing books with her. And I'm, of course, talking about the character of Holly. Now, Holly, when she first made an appearance in the Mr. Mercedes trilogy, the Bill Hodges trilogy, she was fine. She was serviceable. And I think her best story actually came from If It Bleeds. I really like that novella. But then this novel and the follow-up Never Flinch, it's gotten too much, and I really hope that Stephen King will eventually retire her character. I think he has one more Holly book coming out, which really makes me sad. But anyway, I'm just kind of tired of her at this point, even though clearly a lot of people love this book. and Holly herself, because you look on Goodreads, a lot of people read this book and really liked it. So he keeps writing her and he loves writing her. So in that sense, I think she's overrated. Now, a lot of people in this corner of BookTube are kind of tired of her for good reason, including myself. But overall, I think King fans are still liking her character and her story. I just wish he would move on and write something else. This next character, I will admit, I just really don't like. And I don't really like any of the other characters in this book. You could say that these, well, basically 2 books are my least favorite Stephen King books. You guys probably already know what it is. And that would, of course, be The Talisman and Black House, but definitely The Talisman. And it's Jack Sawyer. He's the main character. I just don't like him. Like, I don't like the main character in this. I can't even speak. I really don't like any of the characters, and that's rare. Normally, even for bad Stephen King books, I can find something redeemable, but this book and Black House, I really don't like them. Partially, I think, because of Peter Straub, but also just the characters. I don't like them, especially Jack Sawyer. He's definitely one of my least favorite Stephen King protagonists. Not only do I think he's overrated, I just think he's kind of bad. And of course, that's my opinion. A lot of people love these books and Jack Sawyer. And of course, we're eventually getting Talisman 3 sometime next year. I will read it, of course, because I've read all of his other books. But man, I am not excited about it. Jack Sawyer, overrated and just bad, in my humble opinion, of course. Now, this next character, I wouldn't say a lot of people would put him in the upper echelon of Stephen King characters, but I know a lot of people still love this book, and he is the main character in it. So I thought it was warranted to have them in the overrated Stephen King protagonist. So I'm, of course, talking about Under the Dome, and I would argue the main protagonist of this book, even though there are several characters, is Barb. And I will admit, I do like him, but I think he's overrated in the sense that he's not very much utilized in this book. And I can't really spoil why, but like, he's pretty prevalent in the first half, but definitely towards the second half, definitely the middle chunk of this book, he's just very underutilized, which was kind of crappy in my opinion. That's one of the reasons why I don't love this book. Another reason is obviously the ending, but we're not here for that. We're here to talk about Barb. And like I mentioned, he's great in the first half. I love like the introduction of like the dome getting over the town, and then he has to, try to figure out what's going on and like what to do with the townsfolk. And I love all the things that he does. But in the second half, the middle chunk of this book, something happens and he's just very underutilized, which means that he had to rely on other characters in the book, and they're a lot less memorable. So in that sense, he's not a bad character. He's just underutilized, which was kind of disappointing. I would say the rest of these are going to be pretty egregious, so stick around for that. This next one, yeah, I'll just hold on a minute. Just let me explain. I'm holding up it. Calm down. I do really enjoy this book, and the main reason why I love this book are the characters. The Losers Club especially, and then obviously Pennywise, one of the best villains that Stephen King has ever written. But the Losers Club is made up of seven different children and characters. The main one I would argue is probably Bill, and he might be my least favorite of the Losers Club. I would argue he's kind of the main one in the group. He's one of the first ones that we get introduced to in the first chapter. We follow a lot of this book from his perspective. And I would argue that most of the other Losers Club, I just enjoy more. There's Beverly Marsh, who I think is definitely one of my favorites. There's Richie. Ben, I think, is one of them. I think that's the overweight one. I really liked him. But like a lot of the Losers Club, I just liked more than Bill. And I would argue Bill is more of the main character, even though they all get their different POVs. But Bill was always kind of one of my least favorites. Whereas Beverly, Ben, Richie, all the other ones, I might have liked a bit more. Still, Bill is fine. He's good. But I like the other ones just a bit more. So maybe a tad overrated. Just a tad. Can you give me that at least? I don't hate him. Calm down. All right, this next one I think will just be kind of funny. And again, a bit of a stretch because I do think this is a great Stephen King character. This I just think is going to be funny. I'm talking about Danny Torrance from The Shining. Now, obviously, Stephen King is very good at writing kid characters, especially Danny Torrance. Danny Torrance is one of my favorite kid characters, but, big but here, I prefer adult Danny Torrance, which I'm probably going to lose a lot of people here, but every time that I've gone back to reread these books, I read The Shining for the first time in college when this first published in 2013. I liked The Shining more when I first read it, but every time I've gone back to reread it, I think like 3 or 4 times, I've liked Dr. Sleep more each time, and The Shining a bit less. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that I just love the way that Danny Torrance is written as an adult, probably more so than when he's written as a kid. Going back to read this, every time Danny Torrance kind of just feels less real. Like he doesn't feel like a kid of his age. I think he's like 5 or 6 in this book. He's still great, mind you, but I just prefer adult Danny Torrance. Now, that's probably going to be an unpopular opinion, but child Danny Torrance is slightly overrated, but adult Danny Torrance may be slightly underrated. Comment down below whether you agree with me. And just with all of these in general, just blast me in the comments below. I know I'm going to get it, especially for some of these next books. This next character, I don't necessarily have a problem with. It's more the plot of the book and the direction of the book that I really don't like. It's definitely one of his most overrated books, in my opinion. I'm, of course, talking about Jake from 11/22/63. And again, everybody and their mama loves this book. I'm one of the few people, with a booktube channel that really doesn't like 11/22/63. I think it's one of his most overrated books, but a lot of King fans and non-King fans seem to love this book. And a big reason for that is not only the time travel elements and the plot and the romance and all of the weird things that happen, but they probably like the main character of Jake, who is the main POV, and I think probably all of this book. He's fine. He's not the main reason why I don't like this book. I just don't like the fact that we start with the time travel element of going back to stop the JFK assassination, and then the middle chunk of this book is just not that. That's what I don't like. Jake is fine. He's a serviceable character. Definitely not one of my all-time favorites. I just think he's overrated. He's in it the most overrated Stephen King book, probably. Either that or The Stand. But yeah, Jake, great name, but he's a bit overrated. This next one is definitely a bit of a stretch, but I could argue that he's not the least interesting character in this book, but I think there are more interesting characters in this book, including the villain and a few other side characters. I do really like this character, but again, it was really hard to pick because Stephen King is obviously amazing most of the time with characters. But I will hold up The Green Mile, and I'm of course talking about Paul Edgecomb. That's it. Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks, everybody. But anyway, Paul's a great character, but I would argue that Percy, who's kind of more of a villain character, is a bit more interesting. He's a very hateable character, love to hate him kind of thing. And John Coffey, I think, kind of steals the show in this book as a more interesting character. And also there's some interesting guards and some interesting other prisoners. Paul, I think, is the main POV in this book, and he's good. He's great at times, but I think it's the other characters around him. The other cast of characters are so good as well. They sometimes can overshadow him. And yeah, he's a great character, but other characters are just slightly better. So a tad overrated, just a tad, just a little bit, just a little bit. All right, this character, definitely a lot of Stephen King, good Lord, I can't speak today. A lot of Stephen King fans love this book, love this character, give it 5 stars, absolutely love it. But for me personally, I think it's one of his most overrated. I did a rant review for it a while ago, and yeah, definitely one of my overrated picks, I would say, is Pet Sematary. And the main character, main POV for this book is Louis Creed. And he has always just been a character that I'm indifferent towards. I don't really love him or hate him. I think he's fine. I do say in my rant review that I think this book would have been a lot more interesting if this was told from his wife's POV, because I think Rachel is a more interesting character. This is a book that deals a lot with death, and him, Lewis Creed, being a doctor, he's definitely more clinical about things, whereas Rachel is very afraid of death. So I think having her POV would have been a bit more interesting, or at least to have a dual POV of both of them. I think she does get some POV towards the end because you get some stuff with her sister Zelda. But anyway, the majority of this book is told through Lewis's POV, and he's fine. A lot of people would probably put him in the top 10 Stephen King protagonists, but not me. I think he's overrated. A lot of people will probably blast me for that, but that's how I feel. So yeah, Pet Sematary, Lewis Creed, definitely towards the top of my list for being overrated. Now we come to the last one, and this one is definitely a bit of a stretch. But again, it was really hard to pick overrated Stephen King protagonists because he's got so many great ones and not really a lot of bad ones in my mind. There's a few that I picked here. But overall, I'm going to have to go with Roland Deschain from The Gunslinger and from the Dark Tower series. Now, Roland is a fantastic character, but, big but, he is not the best character in the Dark Tower series, which is funny because he is essentially the main character. He is the gunslinger. But I would argue that Eddie is my favorite Dark Tower character. Susanna is probably my second. Oi, who is an animal companion. He's fantastic as well. And maybe even Jake Chambers. I really like his character as well. Obviously, Roland is a great character, and he is the main character, I would argue, for the Dark Tower series. But he is not even the best character in his series. So yeah, he is a great character. So like, does he deserve to be on this list? Probably not. But there are much better characters in the Dark Tower series. So, why not? I'm kind of already regretting it. All right, so that's my top 10 overrated Stephen King characters, or protagonists list, if you will. This was really hard. Like I mentioned, I'll link down below my underrated Stephen King protagonist list. That was hard to make because it was hard to narrow down the list. This was hard to make just to find 10 that were overrated, which should, make you wonder, like, Stephen King just has so many great characters. That's his best writing quality for me. His character development, his characterization of all the people. Yeah, that's his strong suit in my mind. So it's really hard to pick like 10 ones that I think were overrated. Some of these I do agree with. Some of these are a bit of stretches. So comment down below what you thought of this video. Do you just want to jump through the screen and slap me? I wouldn't argue with you if you did that. I wouldn't blame you. But yeah, definitely let me know if you agree or disagree with me. And also comment down below, what are your overrated Stephen King protagonists? I didn't include anyone from The Stand. Can you at least give me that? I didn't put anybody from The Stand on this list. There you go. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Stay subscribed for more content. I try to post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Especially Friday here for Stephen King Fridays. I've also got the Bookers Tournament Discord down below, where we've always got tons of buddy reads and read-alongs happening all the damn time, including the Stephen King Book Club. In the month of November, we're reading Roadwork, and then next month for December, we're going to be checking out Dreamcatcher. I've also got my Patreon link down below if you want to go support me there for as little as $1 a month, and my Amazon wishlist if you'd like to buy me a book. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a fantastic day.